Hello everyone, and welcome to the Puzzle Proof, your go-to corner of the internet for unraveling mysteries, brain teasers, and everything that keeps your little grey cells buzzing. I'm thrilled you've joined us today. Before we dive in, drop a comment below and let me know, where in the world are you tuning in from? Can't wait to see our community map grow. Chapter 1, The Invitation. The afternoon sun slanted through the lace curtains of Hercule Poirot's sitting room at 221B Wellington Street, London. The little Belgian detective sat comfortably in his favourite armchair, legs crossed, sipping a perfectly brewed cup of Darjeeling tea. Outside, the city's usual hum was muted beneath the gentle patter of a light summer drizzle. Poirot, with his immaculately groomed moustaches and finely tailored suit, exuded a calm air of precision, the calm before a storm of mysteries to unravel. His tranquil moment was interrupted by the soft chime of the doorbell. A footman entered, bearing a single envelope on a silver tray. The envelope was heavy, cream-colored, and bore a distinctive embossed crest at its top, a stylized violet flower entwined with a parasol. Poirot's sharp eyes twinkled with interest as he broke the seal. The handwriting was elegant, looping, but precise, undeniably British. He read the letter aloud in his lilting French accent, his voice smooth and deliberate. Monsieur Poirot, it is with great respect and hope that I write to you. I am Lady Isobel Marwood, widow of the late Sir Geoffrey Marwood. I find myself in a troubling situation requiring your particular talents of deduction and discretion. At Marwood Manor, where I reside in the English countryside, an unfortunate and mysterious event has occurred. My late husband's original will, safely kept in a locked safe, has vanished. In its place, a new will, favoring a distant relative of mine, has come to light. This will is suspect, and I fear foul play. With the annual garden fete approaching, tensions run high among family and friends, and I seek your assistance before further damage is done. Please, Monsieur Poirot, come to Marwood Manor at your earliest convenience. Yours sincerely, Isobel Marwood. Poirot set the letter down gently, a small smile crossing his lips. Ah, mon ami, he murmured to his greyhound, Book, who lounged nearby. An intriguing puzzle awaits in the countryside. A missing will. But, how very British. A family drama tangled in secrets and deception. Très intéressant. He rose promptly and rang for his valet, George, instructing him to prepare the carriage for a journey to Marwood Manor, a stately estate set in the rolling hills of Surrey. Within 2 hours, Poirot was aboard the train heading southwest, the landscape shifting from grey cityscapes to lush green fields dotted with sheep and hedgerows. He took out a small notebook and began to jot down initial thoughts. First, one must consider the motives, he whispered to himself. Why would someone want to replace the original will? Money, yes, but who benefits? And how was the safe opened without breaking the lock? Therein lies the secret. The train pulled into a quaint station. A waiting carriage was adorned with the Marwood family crest, and a tall man in livery bowed as Poirot descended. The journey to the manor was short, winding through ancient oaks and flowering meadows. As the grand gates of Marwood Manor swung open, Poirot was struck by the elegance of the place. The manor itself was a sprawling Georgian house, its pale stone walls warmed by creeping ivy, with wide windows that looked out onto manicured gardens and a labyrinth of rose bushes. Lady Isobel awaited him in the entrance hall, a woman in her early 50s with striking silver hair and an air of dignified composure. She was dressed in a simple yet tasteful afternoon gown of deep lavender, the color of a fading sunset. Monsieur Poirot, welcome, she said, extending a slender gloved hand. Thank you for coming on such short notice. Poirot bowed slightly. Madam, it is my pleasure and my duty. Please, tell me everything from the beginning. The details, no matter how small, are the keys to the truth. Lady Isobel led him to a sunlit sitting room overlooking the garden. She poured tea with practiced grace and began to recount the events. My late husband, Sir Geoffrey, was a man of principle but also of great secrecy. He kept his will in a small safe in his study, a room locked at all times. After his sudden death 3 months ago, I discovered the will had vanished. The solicitor, Mr. Edmund Blake, presented me with a different will, one I had never seen before. It named a distant cousin, Violet Sutherland, as the primary beneficiary, rather than me or our daughter. She sighed. It caused quite a stir, as you might imagine. Poirot nodded thoughtfully. And this new will, do you suspect it to be forged? Lady Isobel's eyes were steady but filled with concern. I do. But without the original, proving anything is difficult. The solicitor assures me everything is above board, but I know my husband. This new will does not reflect his wishes. Poirot's gaze drifted toward the study door. May I see the room where the safe was kept? She rose and led him through corridors adorned with ancestral portraits and fine tapestries. The study was lined with shelves of leather-bound volumes and had a large oak desk. In one corner stood the safe, its heavy door now open. Poirot examined the lock with meticulous care. No scratches, no signs of forced entry. The safe was opened with a key, he murmured. Or by someone most familiar with its workings. Lady Isobel watched him closely. Yes. The key was only held by Sir Geoffrey, myself, and Mr. Blake. Exactly, madam, Poirot said, steepling his fingers. Trust and betrayal often walk hand in hand in such mysteries. He turned to Lady Isobel with a reassuring smile. We shall find the truth, together. Outside, in the garden, the summer fete was beginning to stir, guests arriving with laughter and whispered conversations. But inside Marwood Manor, beneath the genteel surface, the game was afoot. Chapter 2, The Gathering at Marwood. The morning dawned bright and clear over Marwood Manor, the gardens basking in golden sunlight. The air was filled with the delicate scent of roses and freshly cut grass, mingled with a faint hint of lavender from Lady Isobel's favourite bushes. The estate was a picture of English charm, birds flitting between the branches, and the distant murmur of a fountain playing softly near the house. Hercule Poirot, dressed impeccably in his tailored morning suit, descended the grand staircase with quiet purpose. He took a moment to admire the grandeur of the manor's interior, the polished wood paneling, sparkling crystal chandeliers, and the walls adorned with portraits of stern-looking ancestors, their eyes seemingly watching over the unfolding drama. The summer fete was to be held in the sprawling gardens, and already the manor was alive with activity. Guests were arriving in carriages, some escorted by footmen, others stepping down from elegant motor cars. The atmosphere was outwardly convivial, but Poirot's keen eyes noticed the subtle undercurrents, furtive glances, tight smiles, the stiff posture of those trying to conceal something. He was introduced first to Lady Isobel's closest confidants and family members gathered for the occasion. Allow me to present, Lady Isobel began, gesturing gracefully to each in turn, Mr. Edmund Blake, our solicitor, who has been handling the affairs of my late husband, Sir Reginald Hargrove, an old friend of the family and a gentleman of some influence, Miss Clara, my lady's maid, whose loyalty is beyond question, Miss Violet Sutherland, a cousin and guest, and Mr. Charles Fenwick, the estate manager, a man with years of service to our family. Poirot nodded courteously to each, studying them intently. Mr. Edmund Blake was a man in his early 50s, neatly dressed in a dark morning coat, his face marked by worry and responsibility. He shook Poirot's hand firmly but with a hint of reserve. Sir Reginald Hargrove, by contrast, was a tall man of imposing stature, silver hair neatly combed, and eyes that twinkled with misplaced joviality. His laughter, Poirot noted, sounded forced. Miss Clara was a slight woman with bright eyes and an observant expression. Poirot liked her immediately. She seemed discreet and intelligent. Miss Violet Sutherland was perhaps the most striking. Young and elegant, she carried herself with a kind of theatrical flair, her violet parasol resting delicately against her arm. There was a sharpness in her gaze, as though she weighed every person in the room carefully. Finally, Mr. Charles Fenwick appeared as a man of few words, his hands rough and face weathered by years of outdoor work. Yet there was an intensity in his quiet demeanor that suggested he knew more than he let on. Poirot observed the interplay of these personalities, noting the invisible lines that divided them. Each has a role to play, he thought. And each will reveal a piece of the puzzle. Over tea and light conversation, Poirot subtly tested his guests with carefully phrased questions. To Mr. Blake, Poirot began, "May I ask about the circumstances surrounding the discovery of the new will? Was it found in any unusual place?" Mr. Blake cleared his throat. "No, Monsieur Poirot. It was brought to me by Miss Sutherland, actually. She had discovered it among Sir Geoffrey's papers after his passing. At least, that is what she told me." Poirot's eyebrow arched slightly. "Ah, Miss Sutherland, is this so?" Miss Violet inclined her head with a faint smile. "Indeed, monsieur. I had been helping Lady Isobel sort through some of Sir Geoffrey's correspondence. The will was tucked away in a folder I had not noticed before. But Lady Isobel said the original will was kept in a safe." Poirot said. "That is correct," Violet replied smoothly. "But documents are sometimes moved, especially after a death. People handle papers for various reasons." Poirot made a mental note of this exchange. Curious, he mused silently. The conversation shifted to other topics, the upcoming fete, the weather, the recent county news, but Poirot's eyes never left the subtle signals, the quick glance exchanged between Sir Reginald and Mr. Fenwick, the way Miss Clara's fingers trembled slightly when asked about the late Sir Geoffrey, the way Violet's parasol seemed to shield her as much as decorate her. Later, Poirot requested a private word with Clara, the maid. They found themselves in the kitchen, away from the hum of guests and clinking of china. "Clara," Poirot began gently, "you have served Lady Isobel for many years. You must know the family well. Tell me, have you noticed anything unusual about the days before the will disappeared?" Clara hesitated, eyes darting around before she whispered, "Monsieur Poirot, I saw Miss Violet near the study the evening before the will went missing. She wasn't supposed to be there at that hour." Poirot's eyes gleamed. "Merci, Clara. You are very observant. Small details such as these are often the key." That evening, as the guests gathered on the terrace overlooking the garden, laughter and music floated on the air. But Poirot could sense the undercurrents of suspicion and unease beneath the polite conversation. He found himself drawn once more to Miss Violet and her parasol, the color matching the flower beds behind her. It was an oddly dramatic accessory for such a sunny day, and Poirot suspected it was more than mere decoration. As the sun dipped lower, casting long shadows across the manicured lawns, Poirot quietly resolved to watch and wait. The pieces were beginning to move on the board. Soon, the true picture would come into focus. With his characteristic poise, he whispered to himself, "Patience, patience. The little grey cells will reveal the truth in time." Chapter 3, The Parasol's Secret. The morning after the fete dawned cool and crisp, with a faint mist lingering over the gardens of Marwood Manor. Hercule Poirot, ever the early riser, strolled quietly along the winding paths, observing the carefully tended flower beds and the trimmed hedges. The scent of blooming lilacs mingled with the fresh earth, lending the estate a peaceful veneer that seemed at odds with the tension simmering beneath its surface. his attention was soon drawn to a familiar figure seated on a wrought iron bench near the rose arbor. It was Miss Violet Sutherland, the distant cousin whose elegant presence had become a focal point of the gathering. She sat alone, delicately holding her violet parasol closed on her lap, eyes cast downward as though lost in thought. Poirot approached with measured steps, tipping his hat politely. "Mademoiselle Sutherland, may I join you?" Violet looked up, startled for a moment, then smiled with composed grace. "Monsieur Poirot." "Of course." He settled beside her, noting how the parasol's intricate lacework caught the soft morning light. "Your parasol is exquisite, mademoiselle. A rare shade of violet, is it not?" She touched the handle lightly. "It is a treasured possession, passed down from my grandmother. I always carry it when the sun is bright." Poirot nodded, but his eyes lingered on the parasol with curiosity. "May I ask, mademoiselle, if you used the parasol yesterday evening?" "During the fete?" Violet raised an eyebrow slightly. "I did carry it about until late afternoon." "Why do you ask?" Poirot's gaze sharpened. "Because I was told by one of the household staff that you were seen near the study after dark. A curious place to be, especially at such an hour, no?" A flicker of color rose to Violet's cheeks, but she quickly masked it with a faint smile. "I was taking a brief walk in the garden to clear my head. The study was on my way." "Ah, yes. The study. The very place where the original will was kept, was it not?" "Yes," she said quietly. Poirot rose and motioned for Violet to follow. They walked toward the grand house, stepping through the cool shadows cast by ancient trees. Once inside, Poirot led her to the study, its door slightly ajar. The room smelled faintly of old leather and wood polish, an atmosphere thick with history. Poirot's eyes went immediately to the safe in the corner, now open but conspicuously empty. He examined the lock closely, as he had done the day before, noting again the absence of any sign of forced entry. Then, turning his attention back to Violet, he said softly, "Mademoiselle, might I ask if you would permit me to examine your parasol?" "Just a moment, please." Violet hesitated, but the look in Poirot's eyes was polite yet insistent. With a slight nod, she handed it over. Poirot handled the parasol with care, his fingers tracing the carved ivory handle, the delicate ribs of the frame, and the fine silk fabric. Then, with the practiced skill of a master detective, he slid his fingers along the shaft until his hand came to a small catch hidden beneath the handle. With a gentle click, a tiny compartment opened, revealing an empty space barely large enough to hold a folded slip of paper. Poirot's eyes sparkled with the thrill of discovery. "Mon Dieu! Such a clever hiding place! One would scarcely suspect a parasol to be used as a secret messenger." Violet's composure flickered, and for a brief moment, her gaze met Poirot's with something like apprehension. "I assure you, monsieur, I have no knowledge of what this compartment may have contained. It was always empty when I carried it." Poirot replaced the compartment cover carefully and returned the parasol to her. "You say you carried it during the afternoon. And yet, you were seen near the study at night, when the wool disappeared. Do you understand how that might seem suspicious?" She met his gaze steadily. "I do. But I was not involved in any wrongdoing. I only wish to find the truth as much as you do." Poirot inclined his head. "Très bien. I believe you, mademoiselle. But secrets, like this hidden compartment, often speak louder than words." As Violet left the study, Poirot lingered, turning his thoughts over. The parasol was more than an elegant accessory, it was a tool, a vessel for secrets. Had it been used to pass messages or even objects between conspirators? Who else knew of its hidden chamber? His reflections were interrupted by the soft footsteps of Clara, Lady Isobel's maid, who entered quietly. "Monsieur Poirot," she said in a low voice, "I wish to tell you something. Something I noticed yesterday, but did not mention before." "Please, Clara." "You may trust me," Poirot replied kindly. She glanced around nervously before speaking. Miss Violet was not the only one near the study that evening. "I saw Mr. Fenwick, the estate manager, slip through the side door shortly before the will was found missing." Poirot's eyebrows drew together. A man of the house, seen entering the study at an unusual hour. That is indeed noteworthy. "And monsieur," Clara added, "there was a faint smell, something floral but not quite natural. It reminded me of violets, the flowers. Strange to find such a scent in the study." The puzzle pieces began to align in Poirot's mind. The parasol, the scent of violets, the secret compartment, the movements of guests, all intertwined in a web of subtle clues. "Merci, Clara," Poirot said softly. "Your observations are invaluable. Sometimes the smallest details, the scents and shadows, reveal the deepest secrets." He stepped outside into the brightening morning, the sun now casting warm light over the estate. His mind was busy with questions. What had been hidden in the parasol's secret compartment? Who used it to carry messages, and why? How did the scent of violets reach the study, and what did it signify? One thing was certain, the game was afoot, and Hercule Poirot's little grey cells would not rest until the mystery of the missing will was solved. Chapter 4, Clues and Red Herrings. The morning air carried a crispness that seemed to sharpen Poirot's senses as he resumed his inquiry. The garden's vibrant colors contrasted starkly with the somber matter that occupied his mind. Each conversation Poirot undertook that day was a thread to unravel, and he was careful to follow even those that appeared tangled or misleading. His first visitor was Sir Reginald Hargrove, who had spent the previous evening rather conspicuously away from the main fete. Poirot found him in the library, a vast room lined with leather-bound volumes and softened by the amber glow of a reading lamp. "Sir Reginald," Poirot began, "you mentioned you were in the library for much of the afternoon. Where exactly were you during the evening hours when the will was discovered missing?" Sir Reginald shifted in his chair, a flicker of unease crossing his face. "Monsieur Poirot, I was in the drawing-room entertaining Lady Isobel's guests. I assure you, I had no reason to leave. Yet, a servant reports seeing you near the study shortly before the will vanished. How do you explain that?" Sir Reginald's forced smile tightened. "I was merely checking on something, an errand, nothing more." Poirot's eyes narrowed. "And what errand would require your presence there, unannounced?" Sir Reginald hesitated but then said, "I confess, I went to retrieve a letter Sir Geoffrey had asked me to deliver. It had been misplaced, and I feared its absence might cause distress." "Curious," Poirot mused. "This letter, is it related to the will?" "Not directly," Sir Reginald replied, avoiding Poirot's gaze. "At least, I believe not." Later, Poirot sought out Mr. Charles Fenwick, the estate manager, who was inspecting the garden's hedges with a distracted air. "Mr. Fenwick," Poirot called, "may I have a moment?" Fenwick looked up, expression guarded. "Certainly, Monsieur Poirot. I understand you were seen entering the study late on the evening of the disappearance. Would you care to explain?" Fenwick's jaw tightened. "I went to retrieve some documents for Lady Isobel. Nothing more." "And did you have the key to the safe?" "No, sir. Only Lady Isobel and Mr. Blake held the keys." Poirot made a note. A door unlocked by someone without a key implies knowledge of another kind. Fenwick said nothing further, but the tension in his shoulders spoke volumes. That afternoon, Poirot requested a private conversation with Mr. Blake, the solicitor. The man appeared weary, his usually impeccable attire slightly rumpled. "Mr. Blake, I must ask about the new will. You say Miss Sutherland found it among Sir Geoffrey's papers. Can you confirm this?" "Yes," Blake said, avoiding Poirot's gaze. "She did present it to me. Yet, Lady Isobel contests its legitimacy, as do I. Have you conducted a thorough examination of the document's authenticity?" Blake nodded. "I have. To the best of my ability. But forgery has become an art, Monsieur Poirot. It is difficult to detect. And this new will benefits Miss Sutherland." "Yes. To a considerable extent." Poirot's lips pressed together. "That is significant." In the evening, Poirot invited Clara for another brief conversation. She was nervous but eager to help. "Clara, you spoke of a floral scent near the study. Could you describe it again?" "Violets, monsieur. But faint, as if from a perfume or a crushed flower." "Did anyone among the guests wear violet-scented perfume?" Clara hesitated. "Miss Violet Sutherland, of course. Her parasol always carries the scent of violets." "Ah," Poirot said softly. "A detail that may not be coincidence." A sudden thought struck him. "Clara, were there any strange noises or unusual behavior that night?" She nodded slowly. "I heard voices raised in anger near the east wing. I dared not listen further, but it was not pleasant." Poirot filed this away with care. The following day, Poirot requested to examine the study once more. This time, he scrutinized the desk drawers, the shelves, and the contents of the waste bin. Among the papers, he discovered a torn piece of stationery bearing an embossed violet motif. His mind raced. Was this a clue or a mere distraction? Later, he found himself outside, near the rose bushes where Violet Sutherland had been seen frequently. He noticed disturbed earth beneath a flourishing bush, fresh soil freshly turned. Carefully, Poirot bent and unearthed a small, rusted tin box. Inside were several folded letters and a small, sealed vial containing a deep purple liquid. Intrigued, Poirot pondered their significance. Could this be the blackmail letter's origin? Or was this a secret poison intended to silence someone? Before he could draw conclusions, a sudden shout from the servants' quarters interrupted his thoughts. Clara appeared, breathless, reporting that a valuable necklace belonging to Lady Isobel had gone missing. The theft deepened the mystery and the sense that someone was desperate to hide something far worse than a forged will. That night, Poirot sat by the fire, reviewing his notes. The web of deceit was growing tangled, with each character harboring secrets, motives, and contradictions. Sir Reginald's vague errand. Fenwick's unaccounted presence in the study. Violet's mysterious parasol. The scented air. The secret letters and the stolen jewels. Poirot smiled slightly, the thrill of the chase invigorating him. "Ah, mon ami," he whispered to the quiet room, "the truth hides behind layers of misdirection. But patience and reason will strip them away." Outside, the manor's shadows lengthened, the night thickening around its walls. Poirot knew the coming days would be crucial in unraveling the tangled threads of Marwood's secrets. Chapter 5, The Puzzle Deepens. The morning mist still clung to the gardens of Marwood Manor when Hercule Poirot awoke, his mind already working to unravel the threads of the perplexing case. After a modest breakfast, he made his way to Lady Isobel's private sitting room, where she awaited him with a calm yet sombre expression. "Monsieur Poirot," she began gently, "last night brought new worries. A letter was discovered on my desk this morning. It was unsigned, but its contents are disturbing." She handed him a carefully folded sheet of cream paper. Poirot unfolded it delicately and read, "Lady Isobel. The past is not as buried as you believe. The truth about Sir Geoffrey's debts and secrets will come to light unless the will is changed. Be warned." The letter was typed, save for the closing line, which was left blank. Poirot's eyes flickered with interest. "A threat, madam. Someone wishes to unsettle you, perhaps to force a change in the will's disposition." Lady Isobel nodded. "I have no idea who could have written it. Geoffrey was a man of few friends, but he did have enemies, business associates who may have harbored grudges. Do you recall any unusual correspondence or visits before your husband's passing?" She hesitated. There were occasional letters from a man named Harold Trenton, a creditor. He was persistent but nothing more. Poirot made a note. "We shall investigate this, Mr. Trenton. But first, madam, may I see the letter again?" As Poirot studied the typed text under the lamplight, he noticed something unusual, faint impressions beneath the writing, as if another sheet had been pressed over it recently. He carefully lifted the letter and placed it on a nearby glass surface, angling it towards the window light. There, almost invisible, he discerned a faint watermark, an intricate emblem of a violet flower intertwined with a parasol. "Interesting," Poirot murmured. "This paper appears to originate from Marwood Manor itself. A bold move to send a threat on local stationery." Lady Isobel's eyes widened. "You think someone here?" "Possibly, madam. Someone with access and a motive." Determined to follow the lead, Poirot next turned to Clara, Lady Isobel's devoted maid, who had grown increasingly anxious over recent events. "Clara," Poirot said gently, "did you notice anyone handling stationery or letters in an unusual manner? Perhaps near Lady Isobel's private desk?" Clara swallowed nervously. "I saw Miss Violet lingering near the desk late last night, after the household had retired. She appeared restless, almost secretive." Poirot nodded thoughtfully. "Thank you, Clara. Every detail counts." Later that day, Poirot sought out Miss Violet herself, finding her in the conservatory among exotic orchids, the violet parasol resting by her side. "Mademoiselle Sutherland," he began smoothly, "I trust you slept well." Violet's smile was courteous but reserved. "Thank you, Monsieur Poirot. Though I confess the tension here makes rest difficult." "Understandably. I must speak frankly. You were seen near Lady Isobel's desk last night. Might I ask why?" Violet's eyes flickered but she maintained her composure. "I was searching for a particular book on family history. I hoped to find some distraction from recent events." "Did you find the book?" "No, I did not. The study is vast." Poirot's gaze sharpened. "You are fond of literature and secrets, I perceive." She laughed lightly. "Who is not?" Their conversation was interrupted by the arrival of Mr. Edmund Blake, the solicitor, who looked more unsettled than before. "Monsieur Poirot," he said gravely, "I have made a troubling discovery. Among Sir Geoffrey's papers, I found evidence of substantial debts, far beyond what Lady Isobel was told." Poirot's eyes met Lady Isobel's. "Debts that might explain the pressure to alter the will." Blake nodded. "Indeed. And there is more. A ledger with names, amounts, and dates, some recent. It suggests a web of financial entanglements, some possibly illicit." The weight of the revelation settled over the room. Poirot understood now that the will's mystery was part of a larger tangle of secrets, some dangerous enough to threaten more than just inheritance. Determined to probe further, Poirot spent the afternoon retracing Sir Geoffrey's financial dealings. He spoke with the estate manager, Mr. Fenwick, who reluctantly disclosed that Sir Geoffrey had confided in him about a business partner, and Mr. Harold Trenton, whose demands had become increasingly aggressive. That man, Fenwick said grimly, was trouble. Sir Geoffrey feared him, but never said why. Poirot mused on the significance. The threatening letter, the forged will, the missing original, were they all moves in a game to control Marwood Manor's fortune? As twilight approached, Poirot stood by the window of Lady Isobel's study, gazing out over the gardens now bathed in soft purple hues. His thoughts circled back to the violet parasol, the subtle scent, the hidden compartment. The game had grown more complex, but Poirot felt the puzzle beginning to take shape. "Patience," he whispered. "The truth hides behind the veils of fear and deceit, but it will be uncovered." Suddenly, a quiet knock at the door interrupted his reverie. Clara entered with a letter in her hand. "This arrived this evening for you, Monsieur Poirot," she said softly. Taking the envelope, Poirot noted it was unmarked, the seal broken. Inside was a single sheet of paper, bearing a message in elegant handwriting. "Beware the shadows that linger close. Not all who smile are friends." Poirot's gaze darkened. The stakes were rising, and the danger was closer than anyone had yet imagined. He folded the note carefully and looked to Lady Isobel. "Madam, it seems the past is not yet done with Marwood Manor. We must proceed with great care." Outside, the night deepened, and with it, the mysteries of Marwood Manor deepened too, awaiting the sharp eyes and clever mind of Hercule Poirot to bring them into the light. Chapter 6: The Web Tightens. The following morning at Marwood Manor dawned grey and overcast, as if the very weather conspired to mirror the unease lingering within its walls. Poirot felt the weight of the recent threat settle heavily upon him, but he was undeterred. Each new discovery was another step closer to the truth. He began the day with a thorough inspection of the study. Though he had examined the safe and the surrounding furniture before, today Poirot's scrutiny was more intense, his gaze piercing every detail with the precision of a watchmaker. He opened drawers, tapped on wood panels, and tested locks, searching for the faintest irregularity. It was in a corner of the large oak desk that his patience was rewarded. Beneath a false bottom in one of the drawers, Poirot found a small leather-bound notebook, its pages worn but carefully preserved. He opened it delicately, revealing neat handwriting in ink that had faded with time. The notebook contained records of Sir Geoffrey's private dealings, debts, payments, names of creditors, and, most intriguingly, coded entries that suggested secret meetings. Poirot's eyes lit up as he began to decode the cryptic notes. One name appeared repeatedly: Harold Trenton. What secrets did Sir Geoffrey hide behind these codes? Poirot murmured. As he closed the notebook, footsteps approached. Mr. Edmund Blake entered the room, looking more grave than before. "Monsieur Poirot," Blake began cautiously, "there is something else you should know. I discovered an unusual correspondence between Sir Geoffrey and Mr. Trenton, letters written in cipher, apparently meant to be indecipherable to anyone but the two." Poirot nodded. "This strengthens the possibility of a conspiracy. Someone wished to conceal the true nature of their dealings." Before Blake could respond, Clara appeared in the doorway. "Monsieur Poirot, if I may, there has been a new development in the household." "What is it, Clara?" "The missing necklace has been found, hidden beneath the floorboards of the East Wing corridor." Poirot's interest sharpened. A hiding place that suggests the thief was someone familiar with the manor. Together, they proceeded to the corridor where a small section of the polished wooden floor had been recently pried loose. Beneath it lay Lady Isobel's sapphire necklace, carefully wrapped in a handkerchief embroidered with a violet motif. Poirot's brow furrowed. The same violet symbol as the parasol and the threatening letters stationery. These connections cannot be coincidental. Later, Poirot called the household together in the drawing room. The storm clouds had thickened outside, and thunder rumbled faintly in the distance, mirroring the tension inside. He began, "Mesdames et messieurs, we are all here because of secrets long kept and truths hidden beneath layers of deception. The missing will, the forged documents, the threats, and now the theft, all are threads in a tangled web." He turned to Mr. Fenwick. "You are the man with the most knowledge of the estate. What do you make of this?" Fenwick's face was stern. "I've served this family for many years. I know some wish to manipulate their way to fortune. But I would not have harmed Lady Isobel." "And yet," Poirot continued, "you were seen near the study the night of the will's disappearance. Will you explain why?" Fenwick hesitated, then said quietly, "I was retrieving papers Lady Isobel requested. I meant no harm." Poirot's gaze shifted to Sir Reginald. "And you, Sir Reginald, your story about the misplaced letter is intriguing. Might that letter have held more importance than you admit?" Sir Reginald's composure cracked for a moment. "I only wanted to protect the family's reputation." Poirot nodded slowly. "Protection can take many forms. But the letter you sought to retrieve was never found." Turning to Miss Violet, Poirot's eye settled on the parasol resting beside her chair. "Mademoiselle Sutherland, your parasol bears a hidden compartment. Can you explain its purpose?" Violet's fingers tightened around the handle. "I told you, Monsieur Poirot, it is a family heirloom. I use it to keep small mementos. Yet it seems to have been used to carry messages. Is that not so?" Her gaze flickered but she said nothing. Poirot smiled thinly. "You see, the scent of violets was found near the study, and the violet motif appears on the stolen necklace's wrapping, the threatening letters, and the parasol. There is a pattern, an intentional signature left by one who wished their presence to be known." The room was silent, eyes shifting uneasily. Poirot's voice grew firmer. "I believe the forged will, the threats, and the theft are the work of one person, seeking to manipulate the inheritance. But the key to unraveling this mystery lies in the contents of that notebook, Sir Geoffrey's secret dealings with Mr. Trenton." Suddenly, Clara burst in, pale-faced. "Monsieur Poirot, Lady Isobel has been found unconscious in the East Wing corridor." Chaos erupted as everyone rushed to her aid. Poirot and Fenwick hurried after the servants. Lady Isobel lay on the floor, eyes closed, a faint bruise on her temple. "Someone tried to silence her," Poirot said grimly. As they carried her inside, Poirot's mind raced. The stakes had escalated from mere deception to violence. Returning to the drawing room, Poirot looked around at the gathered guests. "The time is near for the truth to be revealed," he said quietly. "But one must watch closely, for the spider weaving this web remains close and dangerous." The thunder rolled overhead as Poirot's gaze fixed on the violet parasol resting silently by the fireplace. The game had changed, and the shadows grew longer. Chapter 7, The Confrontation. The manor was shrouded in an uneasy silence the following morning. Lady Isobel had recovered from her fainting spell, though her face remained pale and drawn. Poirot, however, felt a new urgency. The events were no longer mere puzzles but acts in a drama threatening lives. He requested that all the household gather once more in the drawing room, a spacious chamber warmed by a flickering fire, the grand portrait seeming to watch silently as the truth neared its unveiling. Poirot took center stage, standing with the calm poise of a conductor about to lead a final movement. "Mesdames et messieurs," he began, "the time has come to speak openly. The tangled web of deception, the missing will, the forged documents, and the attempted silencing of Lady Isobel are all connected. But the question remains, who is the architect?" He paused, letting his words settle in the charged air. "Sir Reginald Hargrove," Poirot said, turning to the tall man with the forced joviality, "you claimed to be in the drawing room during the night of the will's disappearance. Yet a servant saw you near the study, the very place where the original will was kept. Your explanation? A misplaced letter, which you also attempted to retrieve later." Sir Reginald's face hardened. "Monsieur Poirot, I admit I feared scandal. That letter concerned debts that might ruin the family's name." "Indeed," Poirot said. "And those debts, Sir Reginald, tied Sir Geoffrey to Mr. Harold Trenton, a man who has been applying pressure on this family." Sir Reginald's eyes narrowed. "What are you implying?" "That you sought to protect your interests by aiding in the substitution of the will," Poirot answered evenly. "But your plan was not carried out alone." He shifted his gaze to Mr. Charles Fenwick. "Mr. Fenwick, you were seen entering the study without a key and denied knowledge of the safe's combination. Yet you have served this estate for years. Your loyalty is commendable, but your actions suggest otherwise." Fenwick's jaw clenched, but he remained silent. Poirot continued, "And Miss Violet Sutherland, your parasol contains a secret compartment. This has been used to carry messages, and your presence near the study at suspicious hours cannot be ignored." Violet's composure wavered, a flicker of defiance flashing in her eyes. "I have already explained. I sought distraction in the garden." "A distraction that involved carrying secret notes, yes," Poirot said softly. "The scent of violets lingers near the study and on your parasol. The violet motif is found on the threatening letters and even on the handkerchief wrapping Lady Isobel's stolen necklace." The guests exchanged uneasy glances. Poirot's voice sharpened. This was no coincidence. Someone wished the family to know the presence of these clues, deliberately misleading, yet revealing their hand. He turned back to Fenwick. "You denied having the safe's key, yet the lock showed no signs of forced entry. How then?" Fenwick's voice was low but steady. "I know the mechanism well. Sir Geoffrey showed me once." "Ah," Poirot said. "Knowledge shared in confidence." Poirot stepped forward and held up the small leather-bound notebook. "Within these pages lie Sir Geoffrey's secret financial entanglements. But more importantly, they reveal coded meetings that were not with creditors, but with a conspirator within these very walls." He looked around at the faces now drawn tight with anxiety. "Mr. Blake, the solicitor, your hurried examination of the will seemed lacking." "Why?" Blake swallowed. I feared the scandal that would erupt." "And yet," Poirot said, "the forged will served your own interest as well, did it not? As trustee, you stood to gain control over the estate." The room was tense. Poirot fixed Violet with his piercing gaze. "You were a pawn in this game, used to transport messages between conspirators using your parasol's hidden compartment." Violet's voice was sharp. "You accuse me unjustly." "But you had knowledge," Poirot said calmly. "And motive." A sudden commotion at the doorway interrupted them. Clara burst in, eyes wide. "Monsieur Poirot." Sir Reginald and Mr. Fenwick were seen arguing heatedly near the east wing just now. Poirot's face grew serious. "I see the web tightens still." He ordered all guests to remain while he and Clara hastened to the east wing. There, just beyond the dimly lit corridor, Poirot found Sir Reginald and Fenwick locked in a tense confrontation. "Enough," Poirot commanded. "Your quarrel reveals the truth better than words." Sir Reginald turned with a sneer. "This man was planning to betray us all." Fenwick retorted fiercely. "It was Reginald who sought to destroy Lady Isobel and claim the estate for himself." Poirot raised a hand, silencing them. Both of you have played dangerous parts in this drama, but your greed blinded you to the truth. He glanced toward the shadowy corridor and called for the others to join. Back in the drawing room, Poirot's gaze swept the assembled group. The original will was taken and hidden by one who feared exposure, someone close to Lady Isobel, someone with access to the safe and knowledge of the estate. He paused, letting the moment hang heavy. Yet, he said, there is one more piece of the puzzle. Poirot turned to Lady Isobel herself. Madam, you spoke of a dead business partner, Mr. Harold Trenton. But there is something else, something you have kept from us. Lady Isobel's composure cracked briefly. Monsieur Poirot, I did not wish to cause pain. Geoffrey had enemies, yes, but there was one secret I have hidden even from my closest friends. Poirot smiled gently. Ah, secrets. They are the fuel of many a mystery. But I assure you, madam, all will be revealed in due course. He took a breath. For now, I will rest the case here and prepare my final conclusion. The guests sat in tense silence, the storm outside breaking with sudden thunder, as Poirot's piercing mind worked quietly behind calm eyes. Chapter 8, The Final Revelation. The drawing room was hushed, the gathered company seated in a semicircle, eyes fixed upon Hercule Poirot. The storm that had raged through the night had subsided, leaving the manor wrapped in a fresh dawn's quiet. Yet the air remained charged with anticipation, the moment of truth had arrived. Poirot, standing with his usual impeccable posture and calm expression, began in his soft, deliberate voice. Mesdames et messieurs, we have been entangled in a web of intrigue, deception, and hidden motives. Tonight, I shall unravel the threads and expose the culprit who sought to manipulate fate for their own gain. He glanced briefly at Lady Isobel, who nodded faintly, her composure returning. Let us recall the facts, Poirot continued. The original will of Sir Geoffrey Marwood was kept in a locked safe, a safe that showed no signs of forced entry. Yet the will vanished, replaced by a forged document favouring Miss Violet Sutherland. Letters threatening Lady Isobel and a theft of a sapphire necklace followed, escalating to an attempt on Lady Isobel's life. Poirot turned his gaze to the parasol resting by the fireplace. The violet parasol, so elegantly carried by Miss Sutherland, was more than a mere accessory. Within its handle, a secret compartment concealed messages. The scent of violets, found near the study, and the violet motif, emblazoned on the stolen handkerchief, the threatening letter, and the parasol itself, these were deliberate signatures, meant to mislead. He stepped toward Miss Violet. Mademoiselle, you were used as an unwitting courier. You carried messages between conspirators but did not fully comprehend their intent. Violet's eyes filled with tears. I was naive, Monsieur Poirot. I only wished to help. Poirot nodded kindly. Votre innocence is apparent. He then addressed the room. Sir Reginald Hargrove and Mr. Charles Fenwick, your quarrel revealed deep wounds. Sir Reginald wished to protect the family's reputation at all costs, even by manipulating the will. Mr. Fenwick's loyalty was tested by his knowledge of Sir Geoffrey's secret dealings. Poirot paused, his gaze sharpening. But the true architect was someone closer still. Lady Isobel's fainting was no accident. It was staged to divert suspicion and buy time. Gasps rippled through the room. Madam, Poirot said gently, you orchestrated much of this, though not the theft or the threats, but the subtle exposure of those who would betray you. You invited me here knowing my methods would bring light to your household's darkness. Lady Isobel smiled faintly. It is true, Monsieur Poirot. I feared what secrets might destroy my family. Yet I could not confront them alone. Poirot continued, the key to the mystery lies within Sir Geoffrey's leather-bound notebook, hidden in a false drawer. The coded meetings with Mr. Harold Trenton exposed a conspiracy. Trenton's pressure was not merely financial but personal, blackmail and extortion. He fixed his eyes on Mr. Blake, who sat stiffly. Mr. Blake, as trustee, you stood to gain control of the estate. Your reluctance to scrutinize the will was deliberate. Blake lowered his head, defeated. Poirot's final flourish came as he revealed the hiding place of the original will. Look beneath the rose bush in the east wing garden, Poirot instructed Fenwick. You will find a hollow stone concealing the true document. Fenwick hurried away and returned, holding a weathered envelope. Poirot carefully opened it, revealing the authentic will that named Lady Isobel as the rightful heir. Justice is restored, Poirot declared. He turned to the assembled guests. This mystery was resolved not by grand gestures but by the smallest details, a faint scent, a secret compartment, a misplaced letter, and the courage to seek truth. As calm returned to Marwood Manor, Poirot reflected quietly. The little grey cells never fail when patience and observation guide them. Lady Isobel approached him. Monsieur Poirot, you have brought peace to our home. Poirot smiled, his eyes twinkling. Ah, madam, it is the harmony of truth that brings peace. And the truth, like the violet parasol, may be hidden but never lost. The mystery solved, Poirot departed Marwood Manor beneath a sky now bright and clear, the estate's secrets laid to rest at last.